Yo, yo, yo. Welcome to the show, everybody. This is the second installment of King Cave's Paranormal Adventures. That's what I'm going to call it, King Cave's Paranormal Adventures. I didn't have a name for it yet, but I think that one fits right there because, it's essentially what it is. We're trying to make sure that we don't tell no bull crap on here. We're trying to make sure that if we see some bull crap, we call it out. And if we see some real stuff, we call that out too. Yeah, my hands is ashy. It's working my hands. You don't know nothing about that. You don't want to get hit with these right here. You want to get hit with these right here? I'm playing with you. But yeah, they were dry. I don't care. But we about to get into it though, y'all. Just for some fun. Let's have some fun, y'all. Here we go. This one's by a channel called Wisp. Let's see what they got.
All right, story time about the time I saw an extraterrestrial. And I've been sitting on this story for over a year because I haven't wanted to sound crazy. But now I'm just ready to let the cat out of the bag. Here we go. So, in April of 2022, I went to San Diego, California for a Dr. Joe Dispenza advanced week-long meditation retreat. And at this retreat, there was about 1,000 other people. Every day, you would meditate in a massive ballroom about 2 or 3 times a day, as well as have a lesson from Dr. Joe himself. And it was during one of these meditations that I saw the alien. Now, I just want to include that there's been a lot of media attention around aliens over the past few months. And I think that the media is giving them a bad rap. How I feel about aliens is that they've been here for a while and they're actually trying to help us. But that's just my opinion before I continue.
I like you.
So this happened on the Thursday. Mind you, I got there on the Sunday, and there was nothing really strange that happened. Of course, I had my suspicions about the retreat. I was nervous the first day, couldn't really fully relax, couldn't fully get into the meditations because I kept kind of popping my eyes open to make sure, nothing weird was going on. But by the fourth day, I felt really comfortable and I really trusted the whole process. So it was first thing in the morning. It's probably only about 7 a.m. We'd got to the ballroom around 5 or 6. Typically, the morning meditations were about an hour to 2 hours long. I remember feeling very cold. So cold to the point that I woke up and I almost kind of like jolted awake. Mind you, I was lying down and so was everyone around me. And I just remember sitting up and looking over to my left. I could see these two tall blue beings walking amongst the aisles very slowly, very peacefully. And when I saw it, I wasn't scared. All I'm thinking to myself in the moment is this actually real? Am I seeing what I think I'm seeing? And after a few seconds, boom, they were gone. Obviously, for the rest of the meditation, all I could do was lie awake wondering if I really saw what I thought I just saw. And eventually, when it was over and everyone got up and had their, midday break, I asked some other people, did you happen to see anything odd? And a few other people told me they did. And one girl said that she's been to his meditation retreats before, and she believes that aliens actually work with Dr. Joe to help heal the collective. Of course, that was just a theory that this woman told me. Okay, I ran out of time while I was getting ready this morning, but I just wanted to emphasize that it's just a theory that Dr. Joe works with aliens. That's just what I heard. Obviously, after what I saw, I was a little spooked, but I still feel that aliens are here for good. But again, who am I to comment? I'm just a crazy psychic. Happy Thursday.
Good makeup.
Everyone I know has been telling me that I should tell this story on TikTok because it's the craziest situation ever. So I'm bored enough today that I'm going to do it. So here's the story of the scariest thing that has ever happened to me and a lesson on why you need to take precautions when staying in a hotel, especially by yourself. So I'm in Grand Prairie, Texas for a work trip, which is a suburb of Dallas. I get to the hotel. Everything's fine and normal. I get there and I do shower the first night I'm there. I sleep. I've stayed in that hotel so many times before, and then I go to work the next day. I end up getting back at like 11-ish p.m., and I decide to take another shower because I've been outside all day. I get in the shower.
You're supposed to shower every day.
I look out the shower curtain, and I'm like, is that a message on the mirror? So I turn off the shower and the steam has steamed up the mirror and there's a message that has been put on the mirror, fingerprint smudged in there. And it said, there's a camera behind here with a little circle with explosions. And so I'm freaking out. I get out of the shower. And I call one of my bosses and I'm like, hey, what should I do? And she's like, you need to leave. And so I went down to the front desk and I was like, hey, girl, this is really crazy. I have a picture of this. This wasn't here last night when I showered. It's here now.
Yo, quick way. I'm going to tell you guys a quick way that you can tell if it's a double mirror is if you put your finger on the mirror and there's no space between your fingers. If your fingers look like this on the mirror, you better disappear. But if your hand has a little bit of space in between it, you're good to go. Continue.
The mirror says there's a camera behind here. This poor 18-year-old girl working the front desk is also freaking out because it's late at night. Keep in mind, I got in at 11 p.m. And she's like, we don't really have another room for you to go to. Like, our hotel is full, but you can, like, check out. And I was like, yeah, I'll check out. And so I check out, and then it gets crazier. So I check out, and keep in mind it's late, and the only hotel that has openings is like 30 minutes away. And it's in a really nice area of Texas called South Lake, Texas. So I get in my rental car and I drive to South Lake, Texas, and I check into the hotel and everything's fine and normal. So I go to my room, I sit on my hotel bed, and I'm FaceTiming my boyfriend, and then the landline phone to the hotel rings, like the room. And so I was like, oh, I checked in late, like maybe they need my credit card information or something. So I pick up the phone. On the other end of the phone is an old man's voice, and he was like, hello, I've seen you in Dallas. I wanted to let you know I thought you were pretty, Grace. So he knew my name.
Oh, fucking weird.
So my heart drops to the bottom of my stomach, and the only thing I can tell my boyfriend on the phone is like, I need to go, like I need to leave here right now, like someone is following me, I need to go right now.
Why the fuck?
So I go down to the lobby, and I'm like, I'm gonna call the police. So I call the police show up, and they're like, did he make a threat to you on the phone? And I was like, no. I hung up on him before he could tell me more, but he knew my name and where I was. And so they were like, well, he didn't make a threat, so there's nothing we can do. We can ask the hotel to turn over their phone records, but they don't have to. The hotel front desk man was like, we won't show you the phone records, but we'll tell you them. Her room has received no phone calls tonight.
Oh.
And I'm like freaking out, crying. I'm like, obviously that's not true. Like, that's not true. That's not true. And the police were like, there's nothing we can do. They checked all my stuff for trackers. There was no trackers on anything. I ended up, one of my bosses that same one I called, lived in Texas. So I went to stay at her apartment. But literally what? So stay safe out there. Don't be going to hotels unless you absolutely have to. Okay, I'm coming at you live from my lunch break at work to give you all the updates and to show you the picture of the mirror. First, one of the frequently asked questions was, did you tell the second hotel what had happened at the first hotel? And yes, I did. I was checking in at about midnight. My hair was wet from being in the shower. And they were like, why did you just make this reservation in the middle of the night, sopping wet hair? And so I did tell them, and I actually showed them the pictures. So yeah, they could have been playing a sick prank on me, which is still awful, or they could have been taking advantage of me since they now knew that story and knew that I was alone. So either case, I'm glad that I got out of there and stayed safe. One of the next questions I got was, why did you go from Grand Prairie to South Lake? All the Dallas people know that that's really far away. And the answer is, my work is the best, and they wanted to find me a hotel that was safe. And so they thought that South Lake was a really safe area. And it was so late, so it was one of the only hotels available. So that's why I ended up staying in South Lake. The next point I want to bring up is that when I showered the first night at the first hotel, this message was not on the mirror. When I showered the second night, it had shown up, which makes me think that maybe someone had been in my room when I was at work that day because I didn't get housekeeping that day. That's why I was so freaked out, is because it wasn't there the night before. Okay, so now for photos of the mirror. I'm going to show a few because I was trying to get pictures fast so I could get out of there. This one you can kind of see the explosion with the lines coming out and see part of the text. This one I think you can see the text one of the best. You can see camera, the C-A-M-E, and then you can see the B-E-H. And then again, that explosion to the side, it says there's a camera behind here. Okay, and then I zoomed in a little bit so you can see camera behind. And then here is written kind of where my face is. Let me move my face. And again, here's another picture of kind of the whole mirror and everything that I saw.
If a person is really having a camera behind there, why the heck would they tell you that there's a camera behind there? I don't think there was a camera behind there. I think they were just trying to freak you out, like, to be honest. It would only make sense, because why would you tell somebody there's a camera behind there if you're a weirdo? Like, weirdos ain't gonna tell you, they're just gonna watch you.
Well, I was freaking out. So yeah, let me know if you have any more questions. I'd be happy to answer any more questions
I don't
about the situation. Like again, I'm glad I'm safe. This was a little bit ago, so I'm safe and I'm home now. But yeah, stay safe out there. Take precautions when staying in hotels, and make sure they have a ton of hotel safety tools online, things you can check for cameras, alarms you can set that I now have. So I definitely recommend getting those and staying safe.
Tell me a ghost story that sounds completely unbelievable, but is entirely true.
Okay, so I actually have 2 ghost stories that are taking place like 15 years apart, but they're actually intertwined in a weird way. So I'll describe this. So the first and the more recent one was in 2012 and 13. Me, my dad, my brother, and my sister moved into a house in Seabrook, Texas, that's very close and near the water. So Seabrook is near Qeb'S, which is along the Gulf Coast. Like the Qeb'S Boardwalk is a worldwide tourist destination, and we're like 6 miles from the NASA Space Center.
Don't go anywhere near the water.
So to sum it up shortly, we're actually starting to see the ghost of a conquistador in the house.
Conquistador!
And you wouldn't see like a full body apparition. What I personally would see, and I'm kind of showing you the corner of my room up there, is you would see his head come through the corner of the ceiling, and it was like this horrific color of like a weird glowing orange. It was bizarre. And it didn't appear like it wasn't like an everyday thing. It was very periodically, maybe once a month, every few weeks, you would see his head appear. Well, and he definitely was a conquistador. He had the helmet, he had like the beard and like the, curly whatever mustache thing. And he just would like look down and just look very angry at you. And there was this one time where my sister actually took a picture of me with her camera. She was like in 8th grade and got a brand new camera, and my head completely vanished in the picture. And my dog Panda, rest in peace Panda, he was a Shih Tzu. You knew the head was going to appear in my room, because that's usually where it would appear, because he would start to growl at the corner of the ceiling when it would happen. It wasn't like super terrible or crazy or weird. It's just, it was bizarre. And there was this one time where me and my sister, my parents are divorced. Me and my sister were telling our mom about it. And she was sitting down in the living room, and where the couch was, the living room, so the kitchen was like this, and there was an L-shaped wall, and the living room was right here, and it was all open. It's like a big open L, basically. She's sitting at the corner of the couch right there. And right as we tell her about that, you start to hear a man inside the house whispering in Spanish, but it didn't sound like the Spanish that we're used to in Texas, like Mexican Spanish. It sounded like old world Spanish. And it was very bizarre. It was weird. And like his voice almost like
he sounded like he told the
it
truth.
Whispered and it echoed, like it was carrying on, like it was echoing in a canyon. It was crazy. So that didn't make sense to us, right? We didn't tell any friends really about it. My sister's friend came over one time and got trapped inside my bedroom. That freaked her out. The doors closed. There was nobody there. It was just her and my sister at the house, and the doors shut closed, and she couldn't get out. She was like freaking out. But so here's the thing. This is the crazy part. So I found out through research that the conquistadors shipwrecked all the way from here, the Seabrook Qeb'S area, to Galveston, Texas. And that's about 45 miles down. There was a fleet of them that came here in the 1500s, a fleet of 300 men, and only about 9 or 10 made it back alive to Spain, like almost a decade later. Most of them from what I understand from the history that I read, most of them either died, they stayed with some of the Native American women and had children, or they were cannibalized by the, I think it's called Karankawa Indians. They're extinct. They're no longer around. They went extinct, I think, in the 1800s. So years later, when I discovered that, like 10 years later, you know, a year or two ago, when I discovered that, it made so much sense. I was like, oh my God, they shipwrecked all the way from Seabrook to Galveston 500 years ago. I was like, I bet you anything there was a body of one of them underneath that house or near it somewhere on the property, probably deep in the ground, but there was a body there, or what's left of a body. So anyway, let me tell you the crazy thing, because I mentioned the Karankawa Indians. So in the early 90s, late 90s, like the year 2000, we lived in this house in the same city in Seabrook, which was about 3 miles away from the house where I just talked about the conquistador ghost. When me and my older brother Sam were little, I was about 4 and 6. I was 4, he was 6, and then we lived there for a couple of years. So 5 and 7, you get the point. The 2-year difference. We used to see the ghost of a Native American in the closet, and we would call him the white man because, he was like as white as a fluorescent light bulb. Not so much white in terms of ethnicity. Like, we just called him the white man, and we were terrified of him. Well, I remember this one time I was about 4 years old or 5, and I fell out of the bunk bed. I was on the bottom bunk, and I looked underneath the bed, and this is late at night, waking up in the middle of the night, and I see the face of a Native American man, but like where his eyes are, the eye socket, it's all completely black, and it's black right here too. So it's like all black, and then it's just black going down. But even though there was no eyes or anything, I could tell he was just looking at me, and it was just his head. And it's like the floor underneath the bed was like a black void that went on forever, like it went down. And his face was like glowing a weird color. And I just remember screaming bloody murder when that happened. And my dad came into the bedroom. He took me into the master bedroom to sleep with my mom in the bed, and then he slept in the bunk bed. Well, I asked my dad about that like 18 years later, and he said he remembered that night. He said he was scared. He said he just remembered keeping his eyes closed, but he could hear and feel that there was actually someone or something walking around the room. And he said he just kept his eyes closed the whole night and didn't open them or anything. Well, how does that tie in with the conquistador story? I find out years later that in Seabrook, Texas, there's a trail called Independence Trail, which is along Highway 146, and a bunch of Karankawa Indians were massacred along that trail in the 1800s. So, right, who expects to live anywhere in the United States and to have the ghost of a conquistador haunting your house? And then Native American ghosts, which ironically is kind of connected to the conquistador ghosts because they shipwrecked and some were cannibalized by them and others married and had women and all that stuff. But yeah, that's my crazy ghost story.
Okay, I'm sorry. Work has been crazy. I will tell you guys my scary ghost story now. I tried to record this. It got way too long, so I'm gonna try. Okay, I grew up in Washington. My other set of parents, my father and stepmom, live outside of Las Vegas, Nevada. So I would go stay with them like once or twice a year, let's say. This particular time, they had just moved to a new house, and I was very excited because their last house was a dark place. Scary. I have stories about that house that I will not share here, but let's just say that I was super relieved that they were not there anymore. I was excited. So picture it, summer, 17, I'm going to stay with my other family. I'm like, oh, creepy things won't happen anymore. That's great. Little did I know. Okay, quick layout. Bottom floor, all the living area, set of stairs, very small landing, and all the bedrooms are clustered around this landing. On this particular night, everyone goes to bed before me, let's say at like 10. Parents in one room with my baby brother, my other little brother who's like 12 at the time in the other room, and then the nursery, which is where I'm sleeping. Okay, so it's like midnight. I'm awake. I'm 17. I'm reading a book. I had just gone to the bathroom, so I knew for a fact everyone was upstairs because they all sleep with their doors open. The landing is super small, so I saw all of them a moment ago. They were all fully asleep in their beds. So I'm minding my own business, reading, and from the bottom of the stairs, I hear something. And it's footsteps on the stairs. And it sounded like a little kid almost, like, you know how little kids just like kind of barrel up and down the stairs, like do, 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 do. Yeah. Stops at the top of the stairs. I'm like, what the is this? I hear it go back down. Do, 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 do. This continues to happen. I hear it multiple times. Do, 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 do. My grandma was very spooky and kooky, and she always told me if anything paranormal happened to ignore it, because if you pay attention, you'll like feed into the energy and it will get more aggressive and stronger or something. So this is in my head, and I'm like, I'm ignoring this. Nothing's happening. Everything's fine. And again, stuff had happened at their last house, and I was just like, not again. So I'm ignoring it because it's gonna stop, right? At this point, I have like a headphone in, volume very low, pretending I'm not listening to the running up and down the stairs. I hear it come back up. Do, 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 do. It stops. It stops for a few minutes. I'm like, okay, maybe it's done. Let's say 5 minutes passed after this thing had stopped at the top of the stairs. Again, the landing is small, so let's say hypothetically, wherever this thing stopped is like 3 feet from my closed door. After a few minutes, I'm sure everything is all good. I kind of relax, and I'm still reading my book, and then suddenly, it was like a full-grown man, like a 6 foot tall man, took both of his fists and slammed it way harder than that. Slammed it against the door of the room I was sleeping in. The door shook. I jump up. If there's fight and flight, there's also freeze. And I fucking froze. I was so scared. But again, my grandma's wisdom, I'm like, I have to ignore it. Nothing happened. 2 minutes later, again, harder. And the vibe was genuinely like, don't ignore me. That was like the vibe I got from the second slam. A couple minutes go by, I haven't moved. But I'm like, what do I do? I decide to take action. I take my blanket, wrap it around my body for protection. Flip on my bedroom light. I swing open the door to meet my fate. The landing is empty. Everyone is sleeping, obviously. I flip on the hallway light, flip off my light. Flip on my brother's light, flip off the hallway light. Close his door, shake him half awake, and I'm like, scoot over, I'm sleeping in here. I'm 17, he's 12. We haven't shared a bed in several years, but that's how scared I was. It is summer in Nevada, and I literally have the covers over my face like this, and I'm like breathing in my own carbon dioxide, but I was like, I have to have the covers over my face. After like 15 minutes on his door, again, softer, but kind of like a, I know you're still in there. I was like, thank God I'm going home tomorrow. Anyway, this started happening to them after I left. This would happen on my brother's door, the slamming. From downstairs, they would also start hearing like muffled arguments at the landing, like voices fighting. Anyway, they moved out of that house as quickly as possible because it was super scary. I don't know if this is like an actual ghost. I don't know if this is like residual energy from like a bad DV type of thing going on in that house previously, but I did not like it. And yeah, that's it. Sorry, this was super long.
Hey friends, if you want to hear something scary, don't scroll. So I've decided in the wake of the end of this app, I'm going to unleash all of my scary stories that I was saving for you guys. I mean, unless you follow my YouTube channel, and then you'll get everything. All of it. Soft Taco, the same name that I have on here. You can find me on basically all platforms as Soft Taco. So anyways, let's get into the story. So I was around 13 years old when this story took place, and this story revolves around me and my brother getting lost in the woods, which seems to be a reoccurring thing in my childhood. So me and my brother decided to go on a little hike in the woods, and there was like a trail behind our house not really technically behind our house, but it was like near our house. Okay, so like we were super familiar with the woods behind our house and the trail and whatnot. But this particular day, of course, we wandered off the trail out of curiosity and boredom. Yeah, and then we realized that we
You
couldn't
asking
find our way
for it.
back. Fuck, we were fucked. We kept walking for, I think, another like 30, 35 minutes, clearly in the wrong direction because we didn't know where we were. That's when we came across like an old hunter's cabin. It looked old because it was kind of like old looking, okay? It looked abandoned, creepy, like something out of a fucking horror movie. But we were actually pretty lucky that we found that because at that point it was starting to get dark outside and we had no idea how to get home. So we figured we would stay inside this little cabin until dawn when the sun started to come out, and then, you know, we would be able to see, maybe feel our way home. So we got the cabin thing all set up for us to sleep in, and honestly, I did not get much sleep that night. It was very spooky and creepy and creaky and scary, but that wasn't even the worst part of it. You just fucking wait. After a while, we started to hear some noises out in the woods. It started out with like twigs snapping and rustling of leaves and stuff, but it sounded like it was getting closer and closer and closer to the little hunter's cabin that we were hunkered down in, until eventually we started to hear scratching on the outside of the cabin walls. And mind you, this is a fucking hunter's cabin. There is not a front door. It's open. It's fucking open. As we were listening to the scratching, looking at each other, eyes fucking bugging out of our heads, we started to hear a noise, and it was like a gurgling noise. I don't know if you guys remember the last story that I told about my friend Jamie and I seeing the skinwalker, what we thought was a skinwalker, but it sounded very similar to that noise. My brother and I basically like sat there trying to convince each other that it was just our imagination and that everything was fine. My brother, about 10 years old at the time, was at the ripe age of wanting to be the hero. So he peeked his head around the corner, like out of the doorway, the open fucking doorway of the hunter's cabin, to see what was out there. And me back in the fucking cabin, like in the corner of the cabin, I was like, no, stop doing that. Like trying not to be loud for anything outside to hear us. But like at the same time, I was like, no, stop, what are you doing? Like, what am I gonna do? What am I gonna tell mom if you fucking die? Like, stop. So after a few seconds of him, you know, looking out the cabin door, he whips his body back inside, tears streaming down his face. I couldn't even get a word out. And he said, we have to go now. There's nothing else. Like, he couldn't even say anything else. He said, we need to go now. Tears streaming down his face. I was about to argue with him because I didn't want to go out into the darkness of the woods alone. But the look on his face told me that something was seriously wrong. I just, you know, assumed maybe he saw like a wolf or a bobcat or a bear, even because in our area, those types of animals are very common. But as we were getting ready to bolt, I smelled it. And it smelled like death and decay, like old rotting body, not freshly killed rotting body. So we ran as fast as we possibly could. I lost sight of my brother. I'm pretty sure he lost sight of me, but I could hear his feet running somewhere next to me. But I could also hear something running behind us. I didn't say anything. I didn't dare look back. I just kept running until it felt like my legs could no longer survive. We did end up getting out of the woods. However, it was nowhere near the spot where we went into the woods. So thankfully we knew our way around the town. So we were able to like walk our way back home, but it took much longer than we initially wanted it to, and it was still dark outside, but at least we were by the road, right? So then once we got to the road, we started catching our breath, and that's when I started.
Stop. What I'm gonna say to that is stay out the woods, especially at nighttime. There's a reason why they say don't go in the woods after dark. There's a reason why they say this park is closed at sundown. They don't want to be liable if you don't make it back. It's that simple. They don't want to be liable. They don't want to go looking after you, because if they look for you, then they might come in contact with the craziness. If you go in the woods, if you so much got to go in the woods, carry a weapon with you. Everywhere I go, everywhere I am, weapon with me. You gotta have a weapon with you. Stop playing with yourself.
begging him to tell me what he saw. That boy looked me dead in the eye and said it was tall. It had the legs of a horse. He said it had long, gangly arms and sharp, pointy fingertips. He said that it had the head of a wolf, but it wasn't. And he said it was looking right at me. Its eyes were piercing into my eyes. To this day, I don't necessarily know what it was because, like I said, I didn't see it. But I've asked him over the years, and he thinks that it could potentially be like a Wendigo or a skinwalker or a djinn, potentially. But he specifically is leaning more towards Wendigo after doing a little bit of his own research since the site. But yeah, needless to say, I guess be careful in the woods because you never know what is out there. I guess it doesn't really help that we kind of lived in an area that was close to the Vermont portion of the Appalachian Trail. So weird things happen on the
You're an
Appalachian Trail.
idiot.
I keep
God.
seeing all these videos of UFO sightings all over the United States. So I think it's the perfect time for me to tell this really weird story that happened to me when I was in 8th grade. I never thought I would ever post this on social media because I'm like embarrassed to tell people, but I think now is a good time. All my close friends already know, so might as well just talk about it. Okay, so I grew up in like North Georgia in the Appalachian Mountains in a town called Jasper, Georgia in Pickens County. And I lived in like a trailer that was on like 4 acres of land. And my neighbors were all pretty far away from me. And my backyard was nothing but woods. Like there was no lights. There was no street lights in my neighborhood. Nothing. I think this was 2011 or 2012, but I remember it was fall break. It was probably like October or November. So I was out of school this whole week and I had just broken my arm. So I just like was staying home. My arm hurt. I was just chilling. So I went in my front yard and I just like was jumping on my trampoline a little bit, but then I just laid down and I was like looking up at the sky. And there was like a bunch of little clouds in the sky, like partly cloudy. And I'm looking and I see this little white orb like pop out of a cloud. And then it sits there for a second and I'm like, what the fuck? And it starts moving across the sky like this, like a zigzag. And it would do that and it would hop from one cloud and then it would do its little zigzag thing to another cloud and keep moving to different clouds. So I was obviously like, what the fuck is this? So I went inside and I got my mom and we both watched it together until it was too far away and we couldn't see it. And my mom was like, okay, you should stay inside the rest of the day. Like that was weird. But also yesterday when you were at school, I was washing my car in the front yard and I heard this weird humming sound coming from our backyard. And she said it scared her so bad that she stopped washing her car and just like went inside. So that was pretty weird.
Smart
and
lady.
then later that night, so in my room, my bed, the way it's positioned is like I can turn over and face the wall, or I can flip over and I'm able to look out this window that's in front of me. So that night, I noticed above my house in the sky, there was this really bright light. And it wasn't the moon because I could see the moon in the sky, but it wasn't a star. It was like way too big to be a star. So I saw that and I was like, what the fuck? And so I flipped over and just faced the wall. That way I wouldn't think about it and I could just go to bed. And every single night that whole week, I saw this light above my room. So I saw it for like 6 days in a row. And then finally, on the 7th day of the break, so this is like Sunday night, I'm going to bed. I look out the window and I see 2 lights, 2 really bright lights in the sky instead of 1. And I'm like, oh no. And so I do the same thing. I turn around so I don't look at it and I just go to bed. And then around like 2:30 or 3 a.m., I woke up and I remember I woke up feeling really scared and like my adrenaline was going really hard. And so I turned over and I looked out the window, and the lights outside were flickering on and off like really fast, like in not in unison, but they were like this. So they were going on and off at like different times. And so when I saw that, I was like, oh fuck no. And so I I turned around and I faced the wall again, and I was like, bro, just go to bed, just go to bed. So I tried to go to bed, but then like I closed my eyes, and then immediately like my whole room filled up with this crazy white light, and I was just in this white room. And accompanied by that white light was like this super loud sound. It sounded like someone was holding up like air horns to both of my ears, except the air horns were pitched down like super low to this weird like pitch that I've never even heard before. And so I heard that noise, and I was seeing this white light for what seemed like maybe 20 to 30 seconds. And then all of a sudden, I was back in my room, laying in my bed, like clutching my pillow. And I remember as soon as I could be back in my room, or as soon as I was back in my room, I pissed myself. So I pissed my pants, and I was just sitting there like shaking, but I was so scared I couldn't move. And then after that, my room was back to normal, but like a second later, the noise came back. So instead of being like a constant like, wah, it was like, won't, 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 like making a weird noise like that. But there was no white light this time. And so that went on for maybe like 15 seconds. And so after that, I'm just laying in my bed, like fucking terrified. And I'm thinking in my head, like, clearly one of my siblings or my mom heard that. Like, we live in a trailer. Like, there's no way I was the only one who just experienced this. And so I'm like waiting for someone to get up and start like initiating the, like, what the fuck just happened?
Yeah.
And so no one does. And so I'm sitting there and I'm terrified because I'm like, is there someone in my house? Like, what the fuck? So I'm just trying to muster up the courage to like run to my mom's room. And so I grab my pillow that I'm holding and my phone, and I fucking sprint to my mom's room. I'm like covered in piss and like sobbing, and like I jump on her bed and I'm just like telling her what happened. And she's like, no, like if that actually happened, we would have all woken up. And so she's just telling me I was dreaming. But I was like the most scared I had ever been in my whole life. And so when I'm telling her this story, the alarm on my phone starts to go off in my hand. And I look at it and I like get so deeply confused because just like 5 minutes before, it was like 3 a.m. and now it's like 7 a.m. And so I was just sitting there like, what the fuck? And like, I literally think I was in such shock that I like went mute. And so I literally just like went to my room and started getting ready for school, and I was crying. And I was so afraid to be outside, I made my mom drive me to the bus stop instead of walking like I normally do. And I just remember the whole day at school, I was like a zombie. And like, I told a couple of my friends about it, but like that moment, like low-key affected the rest of my childhood. And like, I was afraid to be outside at night or outside in general. I started spending all my time indoors. And I was afraid to like look out the window. And so the gap of time that went by from like 3 a.m. to 7 a.m., I still like don't know how to explain that.
Fucked you up.
But all I know is that it was really scary, and who knows what happened. But I think it was a UFO. Maybe I was like abducted.
I'm gonna pause and say something in accordance to what she's talking about. I believe her 100%. Her genes are special. I can see in her eyes she's been changed. Her genes are special. She has a special purpose on this planet, whether she knows it or not. And that whoa, 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 whoa. I know what she's talking about. The missing time. I know what she's talking about. I'm glad to God that there's people out here that have had these experiences so they can tell people like you. That's what these videos are for. So that we can tell y'all that it's stuff like that that happens out here all the time, especially if you live near the Appalachians, Tennessee, Georgia, North Carolina, all along that ridge. There's a lot of activity. And I would just say, stay out the woods. Don't sleep alone. But the crazy part is, even if you don't sleep alone and you sleep with somebody else in your room, they still can take you. And the other person won't even know they're there. It's happened before. They can take you. Other person won't even know you're gone. You come back. Seems like a split second, but it was hours. Or it can be extremely long time you were gone, and it seems like a couple of seconds and a couple of minutes. But you have memories that last time, real long time. Time distortion goes along with those characteristics.
I don't know. I don't want to sound like crazy, but
You're not crazy.
that's like the weirdest story that's ever happened to me in my whole life. And yeah, I just wanted to share because
Thank
all
you for
this
sharing.
UFO stuff is coming up. But thanks for watching this whole video and have a good day.
Tell me a ghost story that sounds completely unbelievable but is entirely true. I'll go first. When I was
Okay, so this happened in
Cut you off.
2009, and I had either just graduated high school or I was about to. And my boyfriend was living with us at the time, and we were in our bedroom, and my mother and her boyfriend at the time would get into very loud, like angry fights. So when that would happen, we would usually leave the house when it would start getting uncomfortable. So this particular night, they were screaming at each other, and we left out the back door. So the way that our house is set up, when you walk into the front door, you're in the living room, and there's a hallway that to the left is the bedrooms, and to the right is the bathroom and the kitchen where the back door is. So while they were fighting, we snuck through the hallway and went out the back door. And we were gone for a good 45 minutes, maybe an hour. And when we walked through the door, they were staring at us like eyes wide, and they looked scared, and we're like, what's going on? Like, we had left before and come back, and it was never a big deal. And they asked us, well, how long have you been gone for? We said, I don't know, like 45 minutes, an hour maybe. And they looked even more shocked. So come to find out, they said that a few minutes before, about 15 minutes, we had apparently walked through the front door. We're giving them dirty looks. They were assuming because they were being too loud with their fight. And we looked angry, walked to the hallway into our bedroom, and slammed the door shut. And this still gives me goosebumps to this day because we were like, what the actual, what is going on? So we walked to the hallway and looked, and the bedroom door that we had left open when we left was completely shut. So I was scared. And my boyfriend at the time, of course, was scared too, but he decided to open the door. And as soon as he opened the door, it was obvious that the window was wide open, which we never left the window open. And the room was really cold. And mind you, like I said, it was around graduation time, so I remember it was really hot outside. And the AC didn't really reach my bedroom, so it was usually a little bit warm, but this night it was ice cold. And I was so freaked out that I didn't want to sleep in that bedroom that night. So we ended up sleeping in the living room. And it still freaks me out to this day because I have other stories. I grew up in New Mexico. There's a lot of, witchcraft stories I have and, S. Walker encounters, things like that. And this was the first time I had heard about, any type of doppelganger situation. But either way, super scary to this day.
I like that. I like that.
Barney is skeptical.
All right, Betty and Barney Hill. We're not going to do that right now. But how did you guys like the video? I liked it. It had some good stuff in there. A lot of stuff that reminded me of my childhood, because if we're being honest, which we always are on this channel. Oh, big man. I had seen ghosts before. I've seen aliens before. Seen UFOs before. I've had encounters before. I'm gonna wait till some later episodes to talk about it, but 95% or 90% of those people were telling the truth. There was only one person on that video that I believe was saying that stuff just to get some views or whatever the case may be. Let me know who you think was the person who was lying in that video, and let me know who the people who you thought were telling the truth in that video, because this is all about trying to figure out who's telling the truth, who's lying, what's really going on in the world. That's what we're here for. You feel me? But I love you guys. I ain't gonna take too much of your time, because you already gave me some of your time, and I greatly appreciate it. Yeah, feel me? So y'all have a great night, and I'll see y'all on the next episode, man. The next episode is not gonna be about ghosts. Next episode is gonna be about aliens and the government involvement with them. Peace. Y'all have a great night. Love each other. Keep each other safe. Stay out them fucking woods.